So many of us spend all day distracting our brains from our thoughts, partly because it's easy and it's inducing, it's easy to do, but mainly because subconsciously we avoid the thoughts that are ruminating in our minds, simply because we don't want to face them or because we can't handle them. We make our day-to-day life so airtight with distractions, with not a single second to think or to enjoy any type of silence. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy entertainment myself. I enjoy music. Most of the time I am listening to music, whatever it is I do. But sometimes we get so obsessed with covering or blocking out our own thoughts in our own mind, having music on while we cook, while we do things, when we eat, we watch videos. Sometimes it gets to a point where we have to listen to our own thoughts, because if we keep blocking our minds, blocking our thoughts to the back of our brain, if we continue doing that, our thoughts are only going to gain more power upon us. If we keep avoiding them, if we're only giving them more importance, they start taking control of us instead of us controlling our thoughts. Sometimes we avoid these thoughts because we don't want to face them. Maybe because out of fear, maybe because we feel like we don't have the answers. Maybe it's out of self-judgment, maybe these thoughts are negative. But the important thing is to face them. Not only do I refer to these thoughts, because silence also brings out creativity. Whenever we've come up with brilliant ideas or creative thoughts, it's never been when we're completely distracted by lots of different things. It's when we're silent. It's when we have nothing to distract us, and our own brain starts to come up with ideas, starts to think, because it finally has. It's the center of attention now. If we block it up with so many different things, it just gets left behind. That's why lots of people say that boredom induces creativity, because when your mind is left to entertain itself, it starts to think of creative ideas, it starts to think of solutions to your own problems. Sometimes it's true that we can get consumed by our own thoughts, but it's also important to know how to control them. Even writing down these thoughts, trying to spill it all out instead of trying to control it in your brain when they're all mixed up and you don't have any control over them. It's important to put them all in one place. It's important to have control over them and not let them control you. And not only am I saying that silence is important for these past reasons, but also because sometimes when we fill our days with so many distractions and so many tasks, our brain just needs to rest. You might not even need to pay attention to what it's saying. You just need to rest and let your body and your mind relax. Because if it's running and if it's being entertained by so many things at once throughout the whole day, it's just like a muscle. The muscle has to rest. If you're constantly stressing that muscle, if you're constantly exercising on it, it's only going to get fatigued and it's not going to grow to its maximal potential. Well, the mind works pretty similar. If we keep entertaining it with so many different things, it's only going to get tired, exhausted, and not work to its full potential. And I'm not saying you have to sit in a blank room for 10 hours, Even if it's just 10 minutes out of your day, you can start small, 5 minutes, something that you feel is achievable, that's not too big. It'll make a big impact on your day-to-day life. And if you sit in silence and you start to feel the urge to distract yourself, that's good. You should recognize it. Your brain wants to make the most of the time, but you have to control those urges, because it'll end up being positive. And at first, with so many urges and not used to being silent for so long, or even if it's 5 minutes, it might feel for like an hour for you. Don't feel discouraged, just try to start small. And if you're consistent, you'll end up seeing results, you know. You won't clog up your mind so much, and all these things, all these negative thoughts that might hold a toll on you end up not being so important, you know. And hopefully this minor change in your life can have a positive impact.